This reminds me exactly of another thing, a business that I was talking to where not quite that convoluted the chain, but when they needed something published or a revision made to their training content, they actually had to contact the vendor that was providing the LMS, and the vendor was the only one who could make changes to the content. So
Yep.
every time they had a change, this was a restaurant, they had a change to their menu, they had to wait a minimum of 1 week for those changes to get added to the LMS, even to just be able to go in and proof them, right? To just go through and verify that everything looks good. So, yeah, there's an example of inefficiencies within technology. So, yeah, you
I
see,
think there's a lot of ways that, you know, and it's likely that something like this came about because there were misunderstandings, and sometimes certain LMS companies might be too technical, or certain and have a hard time, communicating. And I wouldn't say that these roles should be removed, but it's almost like, well, could you just have one or two meetings that included all the stakeholders where this could be hashed out, as opposed to playing, telephone with everything? And I think,
I think it
um,
was a technology limitation in this case. I think that uh, there was essentially two access levels. You're an administrator, like a site-wide super user type administrator, or you were a learner or a trainee. There was no sort of company admin account where you could go in with
yep.
certain and make changes to the training. And the vendor did not want to grant sort of super user permissions or access to this particular company because, they could go in and break stuff with that level of
Yep.
access.
Yep. And I would say that, it could be a tool. It could be, in a lot of cases, it is, once you've worked with a particular vendor, once you work with a program, once you work with a certain set of procedures, I think it is, instead of adding more chains to the to the telephone line, there is a question of, well, can is it something that can be trained out? Can we talk about, can we do training on how the LMS works, how the system works, what's possible, what's not possible, and come up with an internal process and simplify, and not require these multiple levels of interpretation, and be able to have everybody trained up, ready to hop on one meeting and hash things out the old-fashioned way, right? I think that sometimes you evolve this system evolves because you pick up employees and they don't understand this, so you get somebody who understands that and you fill in that gap. Now you find another gap and you put somebody there, and now what's happening is that you're adding all of these links to the chain, but the knowledge is still staying really siloed off, and there isn't a way to catch everybody back up, and to get everybody back on the same page so that you can work faster and smarter. I think that when you're looking at productivity, I think that that's going to be, one of the easy wins, is looking for how things are divided. Where are things waiting? Where are you adding maybe days to requests or to changes and things like that?
Your bottlenecks.
And can you bridge that gap by reducing the number of times something needs to be interpreted, or reducing the number of times it needs to be forwarded, and be able to have everybody understand and be on the same page? And I think that's where training is. And I think, again, if it means it, I think it allows you to be more deliberate about how you design how your organization works, how your team works, and be able to get people to be able to play their role, instead of assuming that whatever you got, whatever whoever you hired, whatever card you get dealt, you just have to drop them in as is. They're not going to change. They're just going to be able to do this one thing. And I think with training, what you're saying is, every individual can grow. Every individual can learn something new and be able to be a part of a optimized, well-designed system, rather than everything being ad hoc based on whatever comes in.